everyone. Today I'm going to discuss one of the most important tasks in speaking section, which is read aloud. Now, first of all, let's talk about the scoring. Now, in read aloud, you get your score for your speaking as well as for your reading. Some of you may not be aware that read aloud counts for your reading as much as 20 marks, and same is for 20 to 22 marks for your speaking score. Um, it is very important to handle this task properly, um, because this task seems to be very simple, but it is not, and many people lose a lot of marks in just in this task in read aloud. Now what we are going to cover, that we're going to cover all those tips and tricks and all those strategies you would need to get to maximize your chances to get maximum score out of this task. Now the most important one here is that you need to make sure that when you are speaking, you are speaking not like a robot, right? So we need to bring some emotions in our speaking. Now what I'm trying to say here, as you can notice me when I am speaking, I'm hesitating, I'm giving slight pauses at some places, and then I'm speaking my second word. And when you are speaking your words, you need to make sure that you are clear and you do not miss those endings, especially the plurals. Now let's get started. So first of all, what happens in this task? So you will have 35 seconds. The timer will go back from 35 to 1, and after that, after those 35 seconds, you will have a beep sound. And after the beep, the recording will start, and recording will give you 40 seconds to record your response. Right now, how do we utilize those 40 seconds is very important. So what we want to do in those 45 seconds is we want to make sure that you understand the text. You want to make sure that where you actually see where those commas are, and you also look for difficult words, what we call as tongue twisters, and you make sure that you pronounce them few times before actually the recording has begun. What does that mean? That you need to understand what is the tone of the author. So what this passage is talking about. Mostly you will get only 2 or 3 lines, 2.5 lines, or 2 or 3 lines. What we need to reflect those pauses, we need to reflect those commas, we need to reflect those plurals, and whenever the sentence is ending, we need to reflect them properly. Now you have the scoring word by word in this task. So basically, if you have 30 words in the prompt, you would have approximately 30 marks in that. Now to another, let's open up the scoring in depth. So when we talk of scoring for read aloud, you have scoring for obviously for content. And what does that mean? That if you have 30 words, if you speak all the 30 words with the right pronunciation and oral fluency, you will get those 30 marks for the content. What I'm trying to say, these 30 marks are not 30 marks, but they are eventually converted into 22% of your speaking as well as your reading score. Now, you may expect 6 to 7 of them in the real exam, but that number may vary depending upon how big the text is. If the text in some of your read alouds is bigger, then you might expect 5 of them, but most of the times you will get somewhere between 2 to 3 lines or 2 and 2.5 lines. Now scoring for the content, and then you have another 2 scoring criteria. They are oral fluency and pronunciation. Now what does oral fluency mean? Oral fluency means that are you able to speak all the words in a proper sequence, or are you struggling when you come across some difficult words during your reading? Now this is very tricky task. We have never done this before, so we have never actually have recorded ourselves and listened back that how do we sound when we speak something. So I would recommend everyone to actually record your voices while you're reading something, and then um, you can listen back that what did you read it exactly the way it was written, or did you miss some words, or did you skip some words, or were your words not clear. Now you can easily do those recordings in the class. So if you are doing it on the computer, you have a sound recorder button, and then if you have iPhones, we have lots of technology these days, and iPhones, you can just record your voice on the voice memos. You also have these recording features on your WhatsApps, right? When you record them, you re-listen them back and just try to make sure that try to understand, try to sort of mark yourself whether you're getting all those words properly or not. Now, oral fluency also reflects proper intonation on different words and proper phrasing while we are speaking. Now, when we talk of pronunciation score, pronunciation, when we talk of pronunciation, it is actually not accent. So never confuse pronunciation with accent. Accent is a different thing, pronunciation is a different thing. Pronunciation means, are you putting right stress on the vowels and consonants while you're speaking or not? What practically it means is, if you are talking to a native English speaker, if he is able to get all your talk properly, or whatever the conversation you are having, if he's able to understand you fully, then that means your pronunciation is okay. But if you have problems with pronunciation, it will easily come up. The guy in front of you will always ask, I beg your pardon, or can you please say that again? So what does that mean? When you speak those words, you have to be very, very careful, and you have to make sure that you pronounce them properly so that the person in front of you can understand. Now, I have got 90 speaking score. What does that mean is not equal to native English speaker, but I can never bring the accent, which is Australian accent or US accent or other accents, Irish or Scotland and those accents, but it is about pronunciation. So you need to understand every word properly, how you pronounce it, how you pronounce it. Now, some of the words which are what I have noticed while teaching, we totally pronounce them wrong. One of them is Tasmania. So we generally call it Tasmania, which is not. So it's a Tasmania. Same as another word is competitive. So we call it competitive, but it's competitive. Same is another word which is executive. So we generally call it executive. There are many other words. For example, biology or psychology. We generally call it psychology, right? There are many other words. You can Google it, or you can YouTube it. For the pronunciation videos, you must look at there. But to improve your pronunciation, I would recommend everyone to listen to the English news or maybe TED Talks whenever you get time. Now let's go further into the read aloud. So what do? We actually make sure that in those 35 seconds, you make sure that you have actually looked at the whole text and identify where the commas and caps are. And even the hyphens, they are also treated as small caps. If you have any difficult word, you divide that word into 3 parts and try to pronounce them separately. For example, if there is a word like evolutionary. Yep. So what we do, we divide that into 3 parts: evolutionary, and we say evolutionary, and evolutionary. So you do that practice before the recording has started. Now, in read aloud and in fact whole speaking section, your scoring depends upon how your voice is being recorded. What I'm trying to say here, that if there is any physical barrier, such as if your microphone is not at the right place, your voice may not get recorded, or if you're doing coughing or sneezing, or you're hesitating, or you're producing many ums and ums where they are not needed, then it will reflect badly on your score. because your speaking is scored by the computer. For every sound you produce for the computer, it's a word, and then word, this computer will go out there and match that sound with the word in the script, and it will not match, and then you will have errors for them. So that's why we need to make sure that you do not put any extra words. So suppose if there were 30 words, you should only produce sound for 30 words in the right order. If you do cough or sneeze in the middle, then it will be treated as a word. Now, another thing to maintain the pronunciation and for the oral fluency, we want to make sure that they give you 40 seconds, but we do not want to use that whole time. We want to finish anything less than 30 seconds, right? Now, when I say less than 30 seconds, if you have say 4.5 lines, you might even take a little bit more than 30 seconds. But what I'm trying to say here, that not too long time, not very slow. You cannot say Mohinder is a tutor at Endeavour Study Center, because you want to make sure that everything is clear, but not like that. So what I'm trying to say here is that you can say Mohinder is a tutor at Endeavour Study Center. So every word is clear, and you have right intonation. When we talk of intonation, which has more to take with pronunciation as well as your oral fluency, when we talk of intonation, what does that mean? That you are actually reflecting commas, you're reflecting pauses, you're reflecting full stops, and you're putting right stress on the right vowels. Now, this doesn't come obviously overnight, but you must have someone to give you sort of feedback on your speaking when you are in the class, or send some of the recordings to me on the WhatsApp, or even you can attach the recordings to the email, and I can definitely get back to you on them. Now, to make sure that you have the pronunciation right and you got the commas and the gaps right, what we want to do is you actually want to start higher tone, and as you go along into the sentence, and suppose if there is a full stop, you want to reduce your sound slightly. And you always want to start high pitch. For example, if the sentence is Mohinder is a tutor at Endeavour Study Center, so as you go along, you just taper your voice slightly. And because after that there is a full stop, or if there's no full stop, there's a comma, then you need to give comma slight pause. But any pause more than half a second will be treated as a breach in oral fluency, and that will affect your oral fluency pronunciation score. So we have to make sure that you do not stop for a lot of time during your speaking. Now, to reflect this, for example, if you have a sentence, Mohinder is a tutor at Endeavour Study Center. Then second sentence is he is very hardworking. So you have to pick he at a higher pitch. He is very hardworking. Now there are certain weak words when we speak. For example, the prepositions of, for example, articles, the, a, an. You have under, of, in, on. All these prepositions, they are not technically highlighted because they are a part of the phrase and they are spoken, a group of that word is spoken together. For example, noun is spoken is a noun phrase. For example, Mohinder is here a noun, so you speak Mohinder separately. Now, is a tutor. So is a tutor, you can speak that word, those words in one phrase. At Endeavour Study Center. So at Endeavour Study Center will come together because at is a preposition, it is starting with at, so that's a modifying part. So you need to speak that phrase properly. For example, there are many things in the departmental store. So in the departmental store, not like in the departmental store, in the departmental store. So that couple of that phrase should come together. Now with the practice, it is really easy, and you should have someone who could give you feedback. Another thing I wanted to say was, don't speak like a robot. So for example, not like that, Mohinder is a tutor at Endeavour Study Center and he is very hardworking. Not like that. So what we want to do, Mohinder is a tutor at Endeavour Study Center and he is very hardworking. Right? So bring some emotions while you speak. Bring your voice from with the emotions. That will create intonation into your voice automatically, and you will have a better pronunciation and even oral fluency. Now, don't rush too much. You do not have to rush too much, or some people are worried about oral fluency and you rush too much. So don't rush too much. If you rush too much, you might not be able to speak some of the words properly. So don't rush too much. Now another thing is, once you finish at say 30 seconds or 31 seconds or say 25 seconds, hit next button, because you do not want your voice, you do not, when you are silent, you do not want any other sound to be recorded in your audio, in your recording. It might hamper your score. So always hit next once you have finished it, and then you will go to the next read aloud and next read aloud and follow up with that. So I hope some of these tips in the read aloud would have helped you, and I'm going to produce some more videos on other sections. So until then, good luck with your studies, and keep working hard. I'll be with you soon. Thank you.